we go. Oh. Hello and welcome. How are you this evening? Our final edition of the Spring Summit. Woo! And Marcia is here, and we are so happy to have her. Happy to see your smiling faces. So it's funny because it feels like Romper Room. Do you remember Romper Room where they would talk about and I see Sharon and Margarita and Gaston and Barbara. Like go through all the names.
I always think of Hollywood Squares.
Even better. Even better. All right. I'm going to continue admitting people. We'll get started in about a minute. So how's everybody doing? What have you been learning? Because I see a lot of faces that have been here through the week. Or what are you excited to learn tonight? Everybody's so quiet. Take yourselves off mute. It's a party. Woo!
Well,
it's happy hour.
I always love listening to Marcia. I think she's fabulous, and it's always a treat.
Thank you.
It reminds me of what I could do better.
Oh, and I feel the same way when I watch myself of what I can do better. Yeah.
Oh, too fun. Okay. So it's about 3 minutes past. I want to honor the people who are here. And whoever joins us later can join us later. So welcome to the Masterclass by Master Coaches Summit for spring of 2025. We have our wonderful Dr. Marcia Reynolds, behavioral scientist, 40 years researching how conversations can deepen connections. Please, this woman is amazing. And I will tell you, does everybody have her books? Okay, good. Yeah, you got it. You absolutely have to have her books. I read Coach the Person, Not the Problem. I was a coach for 16 years. And it was like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So I'm so tickled to have her here. And I'm just going to put my slides away because we don't need all this. I'm going to turn it over to you, Marcia. Thank you for being here. And we get to see a coaching demo tonight. I'm so excited.
Okay, so before we get into the demo, I do have some things I want to share with you, but I want to say that it was a presentation that I'm going to be doing in a couple weeks on how do you really start a coaching session. And when I started to put that together, I thought there's some significant elements that we must bring into all coaching right away. And what is it that happens in those first few minutes? That doesn't mean that we wouldn't be doing it the rest of the conversation because we carry it throughout. And that's, what I want you to be looking for. So I'm going to share that. But what I'm excited about sharing this is that this year I was asked to write the second edition of Coach the Person, Not the Problem. It'll come out next year. And, my editor said, it's not a big deal. You don't only have to have 20% of it new. But I'm going through every page and saying, well, I would say it differently now. No, there's more things that I have to say about this. So it's like, no, it's not that easy. Because I have learned so much in just those, it's been 6 years. And that I keep researching, developing myself, and I want to share it. And that's my greatest life values is learning and sharing. So I want to share some of the significant things that have come up for me that I think is important for us all in focusing on coaching. But the thing is too is it totally taught me to be humble. Because I look back at what I thought was right back then, and I think, it's different now. But when I was creating my deep dive mastery program for coaching.com, we were taking the original breakthrough coaching program and putting it online. And I had to watch 32 coaching demos to pull out 10 to put into this program. And that was excruciating. It was like from 2020 to 2023. And it turned out when I started listening to myself in 2020, I'm like, I can't watch this. It was like awful. Who is that person? You know, and I know how many people like really appreciated the demo and really learned something from it. But when I watched it, it's like, oh, if I was assessing her, you know, but I then got to see my own progression over the 3 years. And I joined a coaching school in 1995, so I've been coaching for 30 years. So we're talking about at that point that I had 25 years of experience, and I still like couldn't watch my demo. There's always so much, no matter where we are. It's a path of mastery, not a path to mastery. There's nowhere to go. You know, we just keep getting better. We keep earning those black belts, you know, at each level. So that's why I know there's always so much more that I can still learn and share with you. So let me share just some of the latest things that are really critical. So again, the presentation was about the first 5 minutes, but the first 5 minutes sets it all up for the rest of the session. It's the critical time. And there's two things that are important. One is the energy you bring, and then what needs to happen. And oftentimes when we learn coaching, of course, we focus on the skills and the competencies, and then we learn to integrate the energy. But if we do not bring the energy to the session, then it's going to take a while for them to open up to us. And I can't tell you how many times I've assessed recordings where the coach starts out very formulaic and asking the questions that they think they're supposed to ask for the agreement. What do you want at the end of the session? What's your measure of success? And it's very rote. And then when they get all that out of the way, they do brilliant coaching. And I'm like, you're a really good coach. Can you do that from the beginning? Can you do that from the beginning? So the energy you bring and what needs to happen is so critical. And the energy is what I've been doing the most research around, is the whole idea, and I'll come to this, about co-regulation of emotions. What do we do that creates that sync with them, which we have to come fully confident and compassionate and care in order to set up to where they will co-regulate with us. So it's the emotional connection that opens them to learning and growing. So it really is this compassionate, accepting, and appreciative. You know, paying attention to someone is not the same as appreciating, as seeing them and accepting what they have to say regardless. And to not think, I know better, that I know what you need to do. I just accept what you're saying is this is your perspective right now. And let's explore that perspective, because when I ask you about your perspective, then you're going to start thinking about it yourself. So they have to feel I am here for you, I'm with you, to create that thing we call safety and trust. And I don't even like to say trust and safety, because the safety comes first. That they have to have the psychological safety, then I'm safe with you, and then I will trust to go forward and open up to you. So what happens when we bring this compassionate, appreciative, fully open, and I know a lot of you have done the work to open your head, your heart, your gut, that we have a fully open nervous system, that what happens is that it triggers biochemical reactions in them. So it's the hormones and the neurotransmitters that they bond with you. It's like, oh, I like this person. I think it's okay to have a conversation with them. And the best compliments you can give me is when coaches say, you know, it sounded more like just a conversation you were having. I'm like, thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I know I'm meeting the competencies, but they're back here. I know we have to know where we're going, what's getting in the way, and that you got to commit to something. That's the big deal. But the rest of it is I am here for you. And the serotonin and the dopamine then open up their brain enough, it activates the brain that they're willing to go into this coaching journey with you. So if you have a hesitant client, you might look at what were the emotions you brought to this, because these emotions also decrease the epinephrine, the anxiety that they may have had, or they may have brought in with them from their previous earlier day. So the emotions that you bring, they will sync with you. You're considered the emotionally dominant person in the conversation, even though we're partnering. And so they're picking up your emotional state. And believe me, they do it over Zoom. So to say, well, it's only live, no. I'm sure you're feeling my emotions. Um, uh, so yeah, but you got to release your worries. Am I doing this right? I'm going to say the right thing. Am I going to upset them? Am I providing value? And any formulas, your competency checklist, your model that you're supposed to follow, which you can see I love models. And especially at this level at MCC, forget about it. I always say thinking is the enemy of the coach. At this point, you should not be thinking. I don't coach from thinking. After my demo, if you ask me what I was thinking, I'm not going to remember. So to always return to that state of, I am here for you. I am here for you. Anytime you catch yourself thinking about something or worrying, that you return, you open your heart, your gut, I am here for you. And that's the energy we have to bring in before you open the conversation. And and it's really important that you spend time. Spend at least, you can spend the 5 minutes. You don't need to know exactly what you're agreeing on right away. You want to ask them questions about the meaning of their words, of what is truly the challenge that you think is the biggest challenge that keeping you from moving forward. We're asking them questions not for our clarity, but for them. Because then they hear their thinking out here, which is what they really need to do, because then they're like, oh, is that what I said? Because they cannot do that for themselves. The brain doesn't allow us to really do self-reflection. It's the protective mechanism says, no, we don't want you to question that. So we need someone outside of us to do that. So just, I always say, just start by asking a generic question. What's on your mind today? And then we listen for the seeds of what it is they really do want to change. Um, what is it they want differently? They're going to tell you the problem, but what would it be if the problem didn't exist? So I always start with just asking, pulling out keywords, asking what they mean, trying to get clarity on how they see the situation, and once we get that clarity, then it's easy to flip it to what it is they want to change or create. So the thing is, it's that old saying, you have to think outside the box, but you can't think outside the box unless you see the box. And so they can't think outside their story till they actually see their story. So you're helping them to see their story out here before we can really identify what would it be if they were to have the situation or themselves change. I did what is it this morning? Yeah, I did a session this morning for Sri Lankan coaches. It's like, God, it seemed like days ago. It was 6 o'clock this morning. And it was so interesting because we did get to a picture. It took a little time of what she really wanted, but it kept unfolding then after that, because I kept asking about meaning and keywords and what was really stopping her then from creating this. And of course, she came up with this when she said, well, you know what? I really think it's my own confidence. Boom, there it was. And it's like, okay, so tell me about that. Tell me about your confidence in relation to this thing you want to create. And is that what we really need to work on? So what's the meaning of the words that they use? How are their stated beliefs and assumptions about the future, which is total imagination? We're always making that up. What they fear will or will not happen. Most people come to coaching if it's a lot of emotions, it's black and white, black and white. They don't see other possibilities. And it seems like, well, this is easy, but not easy to them. Not easy to them. So to even go into the fear, so if that were to happen, that horrible thing you think, what would you do next? And you know, they always have an answer. They always have an answer, which then opens them up to, well, I guess this isn't the end of the world. Then you would get to what would it look like if you would get what you want? What would be different? What do you hope to get? What does what you hope to get or change, what does it look like? And then you ask the who question. Don't ask the who question too early. The who question comes in once they really create the picture of what they want. Then you can ask them, okay, who are you in that picture? Who are you in that picture? And then it's easy to backtrack to, okay, so how are you defining yourself in this dilemma? And then seeing the gap. Again, I see coaches asking the who question out of context because they think they have to ask it. So, know why you're asking it. Remember, the outcome is not a decision, an action, or emotion. What will they get once they make the decision, create the plan, or feel more confident? What would be the result? The agreement is we both see exactly what this person wants. I have an exercise where the coach, they coach for 5 minutes, and then the coach and the client draw a picture of what they think the outcome looks like, and they share their picture. And, it's really interesting. They're usually pretty close, but sometimes it's in the details that's different. And from there, then, is what's getting in the way of them creating what they want. And that's what your coaching is. So that's what I want you to look for. How I do this, how I move into the conversation, how I try to get clarity, and if there's anything that surprised you. So hopefully that was helpful. That's the stuff I'm working on now. So any questions about that? Or are we saving the questions for later? We're saving them. Great pointers. Thank you. Okay, so I understand, Gaston, that you're my client. Is right?
I am.
Okay. So what I would love again is for all of you to turn off your cameras. So it's just me and him, no distractions.
Do you want me to go through the trust and safety document?
Oh, right. Thank you for reminding me.
Checking.
No, please do.
Okay. Yeah, because this is kind of the ICF South Florida tradition of creating, I'll say, safety and trust. And I'm going to read it. So the entire session will be recorded so that those who attend can go back and catch the nuances that they missed when listening to the coaching live. And those who are unable to attend can participate in the learning. In the event that the coach and or the coachee feels too vulnerable with the recording being shared, the session will not be posted and a replay will not be made available. While you are welcome to take notes, any AI transcription will be removed from the call to protect the privacy of our volunteer client and the coach, because we won't know until after the session whether or not they want to share.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to thank Dr. Marcia Reynolds and Gaston for being here today, because we can't do this without our volunteer client and our coach. So thank you for being here. Observers, Marcia's already given you an invitation. I'm going to give you another invitation with it, and go with Marcia's first, but this is the one we usually go through. Your invitation is to give feedback on what you saw our coach doing well, according to the MCC bars, if you're familiar with them, the PCC markers, the competencies, or share what you noticed the coach doing that made an impression on you, even if you can't anchor it back to a measurement. You're invited to be curious about the coach's questions and choices. Curious is not the same as judgmental. This is a safe space for all of us. MCC does not stand for Magical Certified Coach, although in Marcia's case, I kind of wonder. It does indicate mastery. A hallmark of coaching and part of mastery is meeting the client where they are. Sometimes a client does not need all of the tools associated with coaching at the MCC level. Sometimes the ask is tactical and solutions focused. Sometimes the client does not want or need to delve into the beingness that's associated with MCC level coaching. So we will see what this is for today. I'm also going to invite our coach to speak to how the session was for them, including things, this is going to be interesting, including the things, Marcia, that you may not have noticed earlier in your career, things that you wouldn't have been brave enough or courageous enough to raise earlier in your career. Finally, we'll invite the client to speak to their experience if they choose. As some of you probably know, it can take time to integrate a coaching session, and trying to debrief right after one is sometimes challenging. We're placing no pressure on the client to be anything other than 100% client. As we move into the coaching demonstration, except for our coach and client volunteers, everyone is invited to mute themselves and turn off the video. Please hold what is said here with the confidentiality prescribed in the ICF Code of Ethics. And Marcia, do you want me to spotlight each of you so that you're bigger, or do you just want everybody else off?
Well, I think when you go off, I'm just going to see him, so it works.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, here I go.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, again, thank you, Gaston, for raising your hand. But I figure you did that. I know you have something that's on your mind that you'd like to explore with me. So could you share a little bit of that?
Yes, sure. Thank you for the opportunity too. So when I was thinking about the topic, what came to my mind was that I'm trying to, kind of this second life, second part of my life. I'm trying to, I think, still figuring out not who I am or what I want, but I know what I want to do and more. And I like to do a lot of things, many things that bring me joy, bring me passion. And sometimes I have a hard time trying to present myself as defining what is that, presenting to others. And then I find myself struggling with others, clients, prospect peers, trying to fit me into specific boxes, right? Into a specific box. And then that kind of is a struggle because I don't want to be put in that box. So that's kind of the thing that's on my mind.
So you said the second half. So this is a real shift for you.
Yeah, it's kind of a transition into something different from what I have been doing.
Okay, so it's brand new.
Yeah, it's relatively new. Yeah.
Okay. So you did say that, well, I know what I want to do, but I have all these things that, you're multi-passionate and you have joys and all this stuff. So you're very excited about it, but you said you know what you want to do. So what is it that you want to do?
Okay. So I always say that there are three things that I like to do. I like to help people. I like to learn, and I like to solve problems. That's what I like to do.
Okay.
And
okay, you like to help people, you like to learn, and you want to help them solve their problems. And you've chosen coaching or something else?
Coaching, learning and development, consulting, anything that I can tap into to do that.
Okay, and you have experience with those.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're want to offer multiple services for them in the service of helping them to solve their problems, to learn and grow. Correct. So
Yeah.
when you say that you're having trouble sharing with people of who you are, tell me exactly what happens that it feels like a struggle for you.
Yeah. The struggle for me is like the definition, the word, why it has all to be distilled into this word, right? I'm not that. I'm not a word. I'm not a title or job title or whatever. but I have all of these resources that I have at hand to help you, to support you. Let's put it on the table, throw it. These are for you. Pick whatever you choose, and I'll do it for you. That's kind of the thing, right?
You have a problem, I'll solve it. But tell me about, you said the word, like you have to have one word. So is that what,
yeah, that's kind of the thing, because it's what word to use, what phrase, what to use first. So it says in the meeting, hey, hi, nice to meet you, Gaston. What do you do? Oh, which word do I pick? do I present myself like an executive coach? Do I present myself like a learning and development professional? Do I present myself as a consultant? Do I present as all of that?
Okay. Well, you said you don't want to be one of those because you don't want to check the box.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking for a phrase because you said a word or a phrase.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if I can skip that part and say, let's keep the definition and let's go to the work, that would be awesome. But maybe a phrase can help. Yeah, somehow.
Well, I don't know. You said that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So what you're seeking is a way to clearly define to people when they say, what can you do for me? You know, or who are you? That you can say, this is who I am. This is what I do for you. Is that what you're looking?
Yes. And also is how I feel about when I'm getting pushed into a box.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was clear when you said that word, but you know, that if I have to define myself by one word, it's not enough, right? I mean, that's your expression of one word. But then you said after that, or possibly a phrase. And every example you gave me was more than one word, you know. So, so what you said, you're most afraid that if you choose that word or that phrase, that it'll keep you in a box. Is that's what's stopping you from making a choice, that it's too restrictive?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, because it's kind of this struggle, and so it's like I don't know, in my head it's like you have this one bullet and says, this is how you're gonna Japan, and obviously you want to. I know that people in their mind will probably associate Gaston and something, and that will be the relationship, the link that they will create in their minds, and whatever fits that, they will think of me, or they will connect with me, or so. Yeah, and it's sometimes it can get frustrating, right? To be restricted or limited to one thing because of the way they are wired, or we are wired.
So tell me exactly that you keep saying the one thing, that you feel like there has to be one thing that I call myself, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want there to be one thing, you know. I mean, maybe there's a and in your phrase. So let's say you put up on LinkedIn that you were this and this. So are you stuck with that for the remainder of your years working?
No, I think I could potentially change. Of course, if I evolve, I change. Eventually, I might be able to change to represent who I feel I am at that moment in particular. So for that, I think that it's flexible. But I was thinking about this the other day. So, and I always have this kind of thing, right? So, at what point in my career I was doing a strategy, and I was doing HR at the same time. So I was doing strategy for clients and was working on HR initiatives. I was doing both because I was passionate about both of them. And I thrive at that. And eventually, if you have to look for a job, if I quit that company, that role, eventually they would have to look for two people, one person for a strategy background, one person for a talent background. So somehow I created that job for me. So I want to create that for me. And that maybe this is the friction here is maybe I'm trying to give them something that they expect, and maybe I need to give them something that they don't expect.
Okay. That you might give them something they don't expect. Yeah. So what would that be like?
Yeah. Challenging on one hand, because I'm kind of a introverted, shy person. So kind of putting myself in the spot is, I think that will put me in the spot. Like, okay, you're kind of this, it's not the word that I'm going to use, but this kind of freak of this different thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's about how I can, maybe now thinking about it, it's also about building the confidence to say it, right?
To say it. Right. You said something really important, though, a minute ago. You said, I think I've been trying to define this based on their expectations, which feels restrictive because one person wants this, one person wants this. But maybe what it is that you want to put out there is, who am I out in this world? What is the gifts that I can bring you? That you stated in your own way. So how important is that to you, that you do find the way to say, this is who I am, this is what I do for you?
I think it's important, it's challenging, but I think it will be a matter of I think I owe it to myself, right, to be true to myself, and have the courage to do that. And this might, some people may understand, some people may not, some people may like it, some people may not. And that's okay. You will not be loved by everyone.
Let me share this. You just said, I owe it to myself. You said it's important. You can do good work for them. I owe it to myself. And you know what? Courage is acting in the face of fear, right? It doesn't mean that the fear goes away. Is that important enough for you that you owe it to yourself to do this, to stand up, to state who you are? Is that enough for you to face your fear?
I think it's a powerful force to get through that. Yeah, I think that, and and I think it's powerful enough.
It's powerful enough. What does that mean?
Yeah, that it's enough to climb the mountain and see the other side.
Great. Good metaphor. That it's a tough mountain to climb.
Yeah.
But then you get to see the other side. Yeah. Okay. So when you started, you said that you really wanted to define who you are out in the world, but it felt restricted, and and I don't want to be what they want me to be, right? And then you shifted to saying that you want to declare who you want to be. Okay. So what has been significant for you in moving forward to be able to declare who you are, who you want to be?
I think that is recognizing that we all are unique, right? There's one me.
There's one you. Yeah.
And I think that means something. That is one in lifetime opportunity for me and for everyone else that when we cross paths. And hopefully it's a good experience, positive or whatever it is. but I think that is one reason, the uniqueness of these events, or me being me, and also because I think thinking about values and stuff like that, I think I also value my independence right now.
Mhm. Yeah, that's clear. You don't like to be in a box.
Yeah, no.
No, that's one of your big things too. Okay, so we're at this point. So do you have any idea what you might, just even a few words, even if it's not a logical phrase, just a few words of of starting to state to the world who is Gaston? And you get this opportunity in this very safe place to say it.
Mm. Uh, I think that Gaston is a potential good partner, loyal.
Now what?
I
I'm
would say
sorry.
loyal,
Loyal. Okay.
loyal. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, care. I mean, carry in my way. I'm not too demonstrative, but I'm carry. I care for people.
Okay.
Um, and that, yeah, maybe himself is a little too focused on the world of the future and the possibilities,
Mhm.
but a true believer in possibilities, that there are always
Okay.
alternatives. There's that's why the drive to solve problems or solutions, right? I think that there's always a way. There's always a way.
Okay. Well, I think that tracks back to you also not just learning and development, but that you focused on strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I hear you saying is that what you can be for people is I can be your strategic partner,
Mm-hmm.
okay, who totally will work with you to make sure that your needs are met, your problems are solved um, in the way that works best for you. Something like that. That's what I hear.
Yeah. That kind of taps into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that a good place to start with
Yeah.
defining? Yeah. Okay, so say that. Say that back to me in one sentence.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, Marcia,
Mhm.
I'm your strategic buddy.
Mhm.
I believe that together we can achieve a lot of things when we join our forces to co-create a better future.
Excellent. You just said it in one sentence. You just said it in one sentence. And you said it with confidence. Right? Yeah. So, have you moved to the place to where you feel comfortable starting to define who you are, what you give to people?
I think so. Yeah, and I think that is probably my limiting beliefs of getting drawn by what I believe are the expectations of others instead of
Mhm.
going there and saying, try it. So yes, I think that.
So that was a big awareness for you. Whose expectations were you meeting? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, trying to fit that mold.
Fit that mold. Yeah, which is not something you want to do.
No.
No. Got it. Okay, so what's the next thing you're going to do?
So I think that the next thing I'm gonna do is maybe write down that and start telling it to myself in front of the mirror, saying, "Hey, this is who, how you can describe yourself, how you can introduce to others,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yes, go out there and yeah,
Okay.
maybe shout it out."
Shout it out and put it on your LinkedIn headline. I'll be looking for it.
That too.
But, but great, shout it out. Let people know. Let the world know what you can do. That's great. Well, I wish you great success with that and moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
for guided me here.
Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing with everyone else. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Joanna.
Thank you. And I'm going to go through the safety and trust document one more time because people may have joined while the coaching was in session, or it just sometimes it's easier to hear it one more time. The session has been recorded, and we will find out afterward. There is no need for anybody to say during the session whether or not they're willing to have it shared. So I can't tell you yet whether or not this session will be shared. While you're welcome to take notes, we've already removed any transcription. Again, thank you, Marcia and Gaston. You're just amazing. This has been beautiful. Observers, you're going to come back and give feedback for what Marcia asked for, and she may want to remind you. And also, through the MCC bars, the PCC markers, the competencies, wherever it is. But notice, what made an impression on you? What made you curious? And it really is about being curious about the questions and choices, not judgmental, safe space. It comes from a different part of the brain. And but Marcia could give the very great detail on that. So again, it may have all been MCC level. It may not, depending on. And we're not looking to see an MCC assess call today. This is how are we doing with how our coaching is growing? So I'm gonna check in with Marcia about what she might have noticed that she wouldn't have noticed earlier in her career, what she might have asked or offered that she wouldn't have offered as a less experienced coach. Also, I'm gonna invite Gaston to speak to his experience if he chooses to. Again, this is thank you for being 100% client, and be client. You don't have to be a reporter or an analyzer or anything like that. So Marcia, thank you so much. Back to you. I'm gonna mute myself. I might jump in to ask a couple questions, but
Yeah. So you want us to share before we open it up to everyone else? Is that?
That's entirely. So my offer is I usually invite the coach to share first, and then everybody bring yourselves back on camera so we can see you, please.
Yeah. That's fine.
This is meant to be a conversation. Yeah, please come back. Please come back.
Not that many of you, so it's good. I want to say there's so much that I've learned throughout my years of coaching that was not taught in my school. So please understand, I joined Coach U. There was only a couple of coaching schools in 1995 when we were all just figuring it out. When I was on the board of the ICF is when we were coming up with the competencies and the whole fiasco of certification. I can tell you so many stories, of trying to roll that out. And, and so it was much more kind of surface formulaic from back then. So not even fully understanding, what is this agreement, and just like, okay, so, and accepting if they say, I want to make a decision, and accepting that's the agreement. No, it's not. And really over the years of understanding that I cannot make assumptions that I know what it is you want until I see it. That we're always making assumptions, like when they say they want this, that we see the exact same picture as them. No, we don't. You have not lived their life experience. I don't care if you live next door to them all your life. And I've had, there's a little small community where I'm working with coaches, and they have lived next door to each other, and they make assumptions all the time that aren't right. That we have to get the clarity up front of spending time to get clear on what really is this that's running around in their brain, that I call it the fog, that's making it foggy, that they can't see their way forward. That clarity is for both of us. I get clarity, but they get clarity. And that's what I hope you saw, that as I was exploring that, it gave Gaston clarity as well, that helped us to move forward on what was it that he really wanted. you know, because again, people get stuck on what they don't want, you know, and not necessarily what is it that they do want. So understanding the value of the agreement and how to really do that, that's been a development process for me over the years. And I'm often like asked, but you didn't ask, is that exactly what you want to deal with, you know, focus on in our sessions? No, I may not, but I will ask it in a certain way. So is that what is most important for you, to resolve, to work through, to have? And that's the way I ask it. So should I say by the end of our session? I don't know. I don't think when I work with the MCC assessors, you know, we're just saying it should not be vague by an MCC level. It should not be vague of what they want. A decision is nothing. I don't know what you want from the decision. I don't know what you want from making a plan. I don't even know what you want if you feel more confident. What is it that the confidence will give you? It should be clear that I can see it and you can see it. We agree to what we see. That has been a real learning for me over time that I certainly didn't know when I started, and how to at this level to, I always say we start with the competencies here, and then we have to move them back until they're here. I know I need to know where we're going. I need to know what's getting in the way, and I need to make sure you do something at the end. And the rest of it's about flow. So all of this, I keep learning. So you asked me what was different. Well, what was different from a year ago? You know, I keep learning and developing too. So I always thank you for the opportunity. I love doing demos because I learn every time from them. So yeah, and I think it was a decent progression. You know, I understood what was getting in his way at first, but what it was that he really, you know, there was that I knew what he didn't want, but what was it that he really wanted? And it was, there was sort of clarity on that. He wanted to define himself, but I think one of the key things was when he said in a word, it's like in a word. You know, you don't like to be in a box and now you're putting yourself in a box, you know, that it's got to be one word. You know, so that was interesting, but he did say, or a phrase. So I picked up on that to say, but you said that it could be more than that. I mean, couldn't be an and, you know, so his restriction was not only based on what other people wanted, but he was restricting himself. You know, and so if we could really get to bringing forth those restrictions, you know, and then he was the one that said, yeah, but, you know, okay, I want to declare, you know, what's important to me, but I don't know that I have the courage to do that. Okay, that was the big thing. When he said that, it was like, okay, well, there it is. I'm afraid to put myself out there in a way that people might not understand or might judge. But that's when I got to him. How important is this to you? Is that importance big enough to face his fear? You know, you don't face your fear unless you have something that's more important. So that was where we went. As soon as he said that, it's like, so that was the path that he laid out for that. But I did want him to say it at the end, since he said he had trouble stating it. I wanted him to state it, you know, so he could hear himself say it. So that was kind of what I was listening for. Gaston, was anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that you expressed it greatly, and I think that I love what you said about the how you pick those words that I said, and maybe I kind of skip them. It took me back to them. You said that. You said that. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, I believe you. I said it. Now I believe it.
Yeah. No, I've come to believe that reflections are far more powerful than the question. The question is just the follow-on to the reflection. Remember, we're thinking partners. I'm just helping you think. So I want you to hear your thinking, you know, not what I think. Not what I think. Yeah, great. Okay. So with that, and lovely to see you, Katja. What questions do you have or insights that you got? Mhm.
Marcia, I really like what you said about the thinking is the enemy of the coach. From the time we prepare, we come prepared for the sessions,
Yeah.
and we already start thinking of the structure. Really, from the start, since I've attended some of your courses, it's always been you just have to show up, and it
Yeah.
was better to just prepare yourself. Your
Mhm.
team, prepare yourself to coach and just be
Yeah.
present.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
they're going to give you everything you need, right? You don't have to think about it before. He's going to state what it is he needs to work through. Um, yeah, and when people ask me, I do not think, honestly, that was something I've really worked on. I am not thinking when I coach it. I'm receiving, I'm giving it back. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Um, but that's why I can remember what he said before because I'm not thinking, it's just there. I fully have ingested it, and keywords just stand out. Yeah. Thank you.
There's a lovely question in the chat box
Mm-hmm.
from Lauren Hoffman. She said, how do you prevent yourself from thinking so hard when they're talking? Do you ever find yourself tuning out and having to bring it back?
You know what? I teach a lot with Julius Ordonez, and he calls it elegant interruption. Somebody, Robert Biswas Denard calls it strategic interruption. That might work for you, Gaston. What is it they're going on and on about? You shouldn't get bored with your client. I remember one time it was in the afternoon and I was starting to fall asleep. I said, something's wrong here. Are they repeating themselves? If they're telling you something and they're explaining it again, and, that's okay to say, could we just stop for a moment? Two things. You ask for permission and you give them the purpose in order to interrupt. Could we just stop for a moment? I just want to make sure I'm tracking with where we're going with this. Could we just stop? Because I think I understand what you're saying that you wanted. I want to make sure that I do know where we're going before we really get any deeper into what's getting in the way. So you just, again, ask for permission, tell them why, and then you can do it. And only once in all my 30 years did I have somebody get really angry with me. And I needed to stop him because he was going back into when he was a child and what his mother did to him. And that's why it's making him crazy. And I just said, could I stop? Could we stop for a moment? He gave me a face. I said, I just really want to know, that incident, how does that apply to the dilemma you're facing today? And he said, well, I was telling you something important. I said, yeah, but I need to keep the focus on where we're going with this today. I was not going to go into therapy with him. And we had a long talk this was in a class, and he said, you know, I think I've been so stuck in that story that this was the first time somebody made me stop telling my story. And that's why I was mad at you. And I've had clients get mad at me. I don't care. Get mad at me. That means something just happened that was important. So I never had anyone fire me. I had someone hang up on me, but she came back. So good that you had that trust. Yeah. Well, and that's why you got to come in with that fully open, I'm here for you. You have to start with that. Not what's in your head, what you want to accomplish, because you're not going to establish the trust and the safety and trust that's needed, and for them to fully feel like it's okay to be with you. So my conversational style creates that. I let it flow. And good to see you too, Jimmy. Always good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Marcia. Thank you for doing this for us. This was great.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Gaston, for your just putting yourself out there just like you do, buddy. Good to see you. And I'm glad you found your phrase.
Yeah. So the question came in, what am I when I can't really say the moments, but when there's two reasons why you open your head, your heart, and your gut. One is they sense you're fully open and they feel it's safe. So you're creating psychological safety. And this comes out of tons and tons of research in therapeutic presence, primarily with trauma patients, that how important it is for them to feel that safety so they can speak about their trauma. And they've done a lot. They call it polyvagal theory, because it's polyvagal all along the vagus nerve. But it also allows you to receive from your processing centers, your gut and your heart. Your gut has, 500 million neurotransmitters? We receive with our gut and our heart, but we send it to our brain for translation because they can't translate it. And then we screw it up in our brain. So if I am receiving whatever emotions Gaston was going through, I think it's really important that we do receive and we feel him, but it's courageous and compassionate empathy. I feel it with him, but then I have to release it. I cannot get stuck in his emotions, because then I can no longer coach him. It's not a virtue that you're sensitive and you feel along with them. Yes, it's good to feel along with them, but then release it so you can stay present. So if you noticed how many times I really held silence with him, because he was processing, he was thinking. It wasn't for me to jump in then at that point. But of course, his whole, I don't want to be in a box, and he saw me give that back to him that way too. You don't want to be in a box, that I give it back, the emotions that he gives me, I give it back as well. So I'm constantly experiencing along with the client, but not sticking there. So I'm not seeing all, Joanne, if you want to ask, I think questions are coming up in the chat and I'm not seeing.
Let me see. I think you answered the question about sharing what you're experiencing in your body
Yeah,
or heart while
that was the
coaching him.
one.
Yeah, that was this one.
Mhm.
And then someone made the comment that when people get angry, it's a reflection of them, not you.
Yeah.
There's a book
That's
recommendation, Coaching Stories Flowing and Falling of Being a Coach by Karen Dean and Sam Humphrey. And
Great.
then there's a question, does the conversational style ever shift the role of client leading the session? Does your aha or awareness create a decision about what is most important in a conversation? I can see that being a slippery slope.
Okay. So I teach a lot about balancing structure and flow. Okay. So do not ever think that I am not very much wanting to know where we're going and staying there. That, I'm very clear that we're going to stay on this track until until they shift, and then I share that. So I do not lose flow. Just means the conversation's flowing, but I can be very direct in pulling someone back when they start to go off somewhere else. So, and those of you that know me and have worked with me know I can be very direct if it's necessary. I've really got it in my mind. It's my responsibility to try to figure out where we're going and keep us there until it's clear that there's something more important, but I will still ask them about that. And that, and that I need to wrap it up at the end. What was most important to you? How did that relate to what you want? What are you going to do next? You saw me ask those. I'm very clear that I am meeting the competencies when I do this. So I think it's a strong, liberating presence that I'm here for you and we're having this conversation. Okay. Do I know where we're going? Yeah, I do know. Okay, and we're going to go. So no, I never find that it ends up being that they're in control. They lead the conversation. I'm not releasing that to them when I in conversation. It's just a conversational style that because I'm comfortable with them, and that's my desire for them to be comfortable with me. I'm not doing something to them. I'm being with them. I'm their thinking partner. Remember that you're a thinking partner Gaston wants to be a problem solver, so he's going to do some other things other than coaching. Okay, he's going to do this and he's going to do this. He's going to like figure out what they need and offer it to them, you know, so they can find their great way forward. So that's I know that my role is to help you think, and that's what I provide. If there's ever a time, you know, at the very end that it's like, you know, there's something that I'd like to consider, I might offer something at the end, but not inside the conversation. So, okay. And I have been hired to be more of a mentor, but we're really clear in the contracting that there will be some mentoring to this. Like during the COVID, it seemed like I had a number of clients that were promoted like 2-3 levels, and there were just some things they absolutely didn't know. This one guy, they had him redesigning the whole global organization, and he'd never worked with an executive team before, and there were just some things that we decided, okay, half our coaching is half our time together is coaching, half of it's mentoring. And after about a couple of months, he said, okay, we're done with the mentoring. Let's just stick with the coaching. So it was his choice. But we had that agreement, so I wasn't mixing hats. So was there more questions?
There was another book recommendation, The Pocket Guide to the Polyvagal Theory, The Transformative Power of Feeling Safe by Dr. Stephen Porges. Yeah. No, I happen to enjoy those books. I love sneaking around like behind the scenes of what's going on.
Yeah.
I often say, are you using your brain or is your brain using you?
Yeah. Well, that was, you know, my first book was first book was self-published. It was Outsmart Your Brain.
See? That's the thing.
Yeah, you can either be the victim or the master of your brain.
Absolutely. The one thing I want to go back, I hope I get the opportunity to go back and listen to the recording, because there was the original, oh, this is what I want. And then it kept shifting and morphing and changing and I just there's an art to that. To just continue to, it's almost like it becomes the coaching.
Yeah.
To suss out what they really, because the first thing they bring isn't really what they want.
Yeah. You know what? That's why I say, please don't start the session with, so what do you want out of our time together? Because they don't know. They don't know. All they're going to do is tell you the problem, you know, and I want to solve this problem. So, yeah, but we got to get somewhere, you know, in get an initial agreement that this is what you want. And I think that's what you'll hear, is that we had that. But then what's really stopping the smart person from doing this? You know, what are the things that he's saying that are limiting? You know, he had some shoulds going on that were getting in the way of what he really wanted. And, you know, so I'm still reflecting, you know, what he's saying when he's defining his challenges and how he sees that. So I'm still his thinking partner. So, okay, so this is what you said, you know, and bringing that forward for him, which does then unwrap, you know, a little bit more of what he really wants. But it's difficult to state. So I always say that getting to the real thing is often the entire session. And once they get there, it's like, the rest of it's fairly easy. So don't just think that the first thing you agree to is it, you know, because most of the time it's not. So, yeah.
What else is everyone curious about? Or what did you notice Marcia doing well? What made an impression? Katya, yeah, it's just like take yourself off mute. Go ahead.
I'm curious, Marcia, you mentioned that you're using like a drawing to ask them what the future will look like. Can you tell us about that?
You mean when I was talking about the exercise of having
Yes,
people draw?
yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
different. That's when I'm teaching coaching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that they do that. However, I did that in my mastery program, and somebody said, can I use this with my client where we stop and just both of us draw what I think you want? And I said, I don't know, ask them if that would be helpful. So I never thought of it as something to do with the client. I used it just as a coaching tool to see if you really got the picture of what they wanted. But it is really important that when you're coaching, that you coach to clarity, that you both have a picture of what they really want. That what is most important that for them to create or change that's not happening now. And again, what that is can evolve and go deeper, and that's what I keep looking for. And once we can get there, what's getting in the way? What is it they need then now to do that? So for Gaston, when it finally got to just the courage to state who he is out in the world, so we did a little bit about, so what's making that so difficult? And talking about, and then he brilliantly said, well, I've been doing it to their expectations, which is also about judgment, not my own. And to me, when he came up with that too, it was like, okay, another red light, boom, boom, boom. that was a big aha moment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
There's some comments in the chat. It says
Mhm.
that Marcia did well, plenty of space and time for
Mhm.
Gaston to reflect and think. We had talked about your use of silence before, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then amazing how you did the coaching in probably 20 minutes. And
Mhm.
this was funny because Marcia and I had talked about it before the session, because she's got 30 to 40 minutes to coach, and then we do this
Yeah.
a smaller Q&A. So we're doing it in the reverse because she gets everything done
Yeah.
really fast.
Well, and I said to you, I said, I don't take 30 to 40 minutes to coach,
Right.
20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
My
I
coaching
want to say that has happened. The more I focus on really understanding what they want, makes it shorter sessions. Slow down, spend time up front, makes the session shorter in the long run. Yeah.
I am much less experienced than you, and I see that so much
Mm-hmm.
in coaching and training coaches. If you just get the
Yeah.
agreement,
But spend
everything
time.
else is
Yeah.
so simple because
Right.
it's that diving in.
Well, and that becomes the anchor.
Mhm.
That becomes the anchor. So, and again, take time for you both to work through the fog that they're carrying, that they don't fully understand what it is. Take the time for that clarity, and then it starts to become clear, and then you anchor that, but then you move from there.
Amazing level of clarity in 20 minutes.
Thank you.
And we're kind of talking about, how is this different than when you were a new coach? So when you were a new coach, because I have this thing,
Yeah.
well, right? When you learn to walk, it's there's a big thing about permission to learn,
Yeah.
permission to practice,
Mhm.
permission to grow.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I had heard you say earlier is about the book, that as you're going through the book for the second edition, which by the way, Marcia has already agreed to come and be part of our spring summit. So we can celebrate bringing out the second edition with her.
Next year, yay.
Yay! Yeah, spring summit next year. Yeah, so she'll be here again in a year, but mark your calendars now.
Mhm.
But as you're reading through it, it's not how you would have done it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, and think about how you would have done it 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And that progression
Mhm.
is is there something for you to say to that? Is there something for someone else in the room to
Yeah.
say to the progression of learning that is so ongoing?
Well, when somebody gave me the distinction of it's not a path to mastery, it's a path of mastery, that clearly defined it. But I have to say too that learning, I took a martial art for 5 years, Aikido, and there's no perfection. So when I said you get all your black belts, I meant it. That you just, you go to the next level, you go to the next level, but there's no end. You don't become the perfect. There's never the perfect. We just keep doing it better and learning more about what it is we're doing, actually, which makes it, once we understand it better, that whole thing about I'm really just helping you think. I'm not helping you solve something. I'm helping you think, which ends up solving it. Which ends up solving it. I've had people do webinars and even a presentation at ICF about Marcia got it wrong. It is about the problem. It's like whatever. All publicity is good publicity. It's like I never said the problem goes away. It's coach the person in the context of their problem. It's because that's what it is. When we get to the agreement. And so, and I have to say that really focusing on that it's constant learning and development. That's why we have to do renewals. My MCC has to be renewed again this year. And all I have to do is my ethics things. I already got all the CEUs. So, that giving yourself that grace, that I don't have to be perfect. And that's significant for me because most of my coach training is actually in Asia. I work for a coaching school in China, in the Philippines, and Malaysia, and then always do webinars. I did one, like I said, for Sri Lanka this morning. And they're so brought up, they must get A's on the test. It must be perfect, and getting them out of the mindset. And I must be better than other people. But I was sort of brought up that way too. I always tell my students in China, I said, Chinese mothers and Jewish mothers are about the same. You must do this. So, yeah, I had to be the top student. I had to be the top athlete, so getting out of that mindset that I don't have to be the best and I'm never going to be perfect. I can be really great, but not perfect, is essential to allowing yourself again the grace to grow. So please do that. Gaston, you had something to share?
It was more of a question. You were mentioning about obviously the mastery and the road, right? And I was wondering if you have noticed any change in the clients. I mean, clients were easier to coach before. Now they are kind of this fast-moving society is like.
You mean the shifts in culture? That's an interesting question, Gaston. I probably have to think about that a little bit. I'm not so sure that anything has ever been slow. We always say, oh, it's more chaotic now, but I think we thought it was back then as well. I mean, I remember like, yay, when I finally left corporate, it's like, and now I can have time to exercise, because I was so stressed and busy all the time. So, I was actually working for a company that had the very first PC before IBM, and it was awful, and that's why it didn't. It was an ITT company, why it didn't work. But they kept saying, oh, when everyone has a PC, they'll have so much leisure time. They won't know what to do with it. They were selling it that way. Right. They didn't realize it was going to take over our lives and then have phones that we are doing our email all the time. So I think it's not so much the chaos, but the distractions. That there's just more and more distractions, and what's going on in the world right now, it's like, how much is that affecting me? I've had some health issues this year, and I really think it's because what's going on in the world is affecting me, but can I turn off the news? No, I have a global clientele. I kind of need to know what's going on. So trying to make sure that I stay healthy, and that I do get my exercise and I eat healthy, and just to take care of myself as best as I can, and be out with people, more than I would normally do that, to push myself to go out and be with people when I'm home. When I'm traveling, it's fine. I love being out in the world with people, but when I'm home, I can just hibernate, and that's deadly. So I have my cat, but she doesn't talk to me. She's a little pushy too. So yeah, yeah. So I think that's it. It's just our attention spans are shorter and shorter and shorter. And so really getting people present. Um, Sometimes you just have to let them kind of spout out all that's going on right now, and then say, okay, so all of this is going on. What's most important for you to work on in our time together? So, what is it they need? They're going to let you know. So, yeah.
There's another question in the chat. It
Mhm.
says, you model never stop learning so well.
No.
What else are you learning for yourself?
Yeah. I have to say that I didn't even realize. So I spoke at a conference. It was just last year in Ireland. And a coach I've known from the very beginning was there. And he came up to me and he said, and I don't know if this was a compliment, he says, "You're much more humble now." And I think that was kind of a compliment and not, you know. But honestly, I think that, people always say, "Oh, you're so authentic and you share yourself and whatever." I just think that well, I'm not better than anybody. I've just spent more time learning this, and I have things to share with you. And probably when earlier in my career, I wanted to prove what I know. I had a social need to show I'm smart and I know things. Okay, that was one of my things. And so I'm sure he was right about that. And that was a hard one for me to take. But that he noticed that I'm more humble now than I was before. It was like, okay, I'm going to take that as a good thing. As a good thing. And so and it doesn't mean that I'm not tough, like when I mentor, right, Katya, that I can be a tough mentor. So I'm still, because I'm wanting the best for you. I'm always wanting the best for those people I work with. So, yeah.
That's very clear. And it's very clear that you want the best for the coaching profession and the whole profession of coaching,
Totally.
because you spend
Totally.
so much of your time
Yeah.
with, I know we were talking about you have the hand sanitizer from when you were here
Yeah,
in
yeah.
South Florida.
I just want to share this. I always say I'm the only ICF president from the 1900s that's still showing up. So, yeah, I mean, all the ones
Right.
before me, they're long gone. So, yeah. Yeah.
I'm
No, I
grateful
love this
you're here.
profession. I feel like it's a gift that it was shown to me, that it was given to me at such a ideal time when it was just starting out, that I could step in and be significant in helping everyone else in the world to grow. Because I've been researching how do people learn and grow since the late 1980s. My second master's degree was adult learning, and I was running training departments, and I'm like, I got to figure this out. And it wasn't until I found coaching that's like, oh, it's not about telling them what to do and teaching them. It's about helping them think differently, working with the middle brain, having them make connections and things pop out. That's sustainable change, not me telling. Um, So yes, I teach, but hopefully you go practice. Mm. All right, anything else? Hmm. Did I model MCC? And again, all of you know at this level that you all have your own styles and you do your own thing. you know, and you may have heard some other things that Gaston said that you would have dug into. That's fine. You know, maybe I missed it, or maybe I just didn't go that way because I heard something else. There's so many ways the human brain is so complex, so complex. So I'm having a hard time reading it. Shakti?
Yes, Shakti. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. In this meeting today, this coaching demo that you just did, as you're sitting here in this moment, what is something that you feel you've learned about yourself, or that just comes up for you that is maybe different from what you thought before?
I'm not so sure. You know, being that I don't think when I'm coaching, I'm not so sure. I think I would have to watch it to say, oh, well, that's interesting. Maybe I should have done this. That as a reflection is really hard for me because I don't have the full, you know, so there was not a time where I felt like, boy, that wasn't very good. And I have said things just like, yeah, you could have done that better, you know, but then move on. You know, but I think in his whole complexity up front, you know, like, okay, I'm going to have to sort through this. You know, if I watch it again, would I have sorted through it differently? Maybe. You know, but I did recognize early on, like, okay, we need to sit with this. We really need to work through this. You know, because he's creating this chaos. And it was really significant, you know, that I felt this when I asked him, when he first said, it's my second chapter. So when I asked him, so this is brand new for you. You know, that for me was a significant piece of information that he gave me that I wanted to confirm. So yeah, he's coming into this brand new. So part of his not knowing is because it's all new, you know, and so he's got a lot of shoulds going on. I should do this, I should do this, and I should name myself and give it one word, and and all this stuff that he's probably read somewhere or seen or whatever other people are doing. You know, and so trying to really sort through the, you know, that all that stuff that he thinks he should do, but what does he really want to do? You know, there was a lot of sorting to go through with that. So if I were to listen to this again, I might look at the sorting process. But I got early on, this is like, okay, we're going to have to really, there's a lot of fog that needs to be cleared here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that that question was not intended necessarily for something you would have done better, but also more as a reflection of just something you noticed that you did that you are proud of or happy with or really. Yes. So I didn't mean for it. I don't know how it came across.
No, it was a good reflection. Probably, you know, that I am getting more proud of my patients. You know, of recognizing when he's thinking and letting him to do that, but stepping in where I need to. So, yeah.
Thank
Great.
you for that.
We have another question. Do you pronounce it Nerdis?
Like Lourdes, but Nordis. And
Okay, Nordis.
I wanted to take a moment and just say that when you celebrated with him, it was so genuine and so heartfelt that I'm like, no wonder you build into that energy. And it really, really resonated with me because I believe the same. You have to come with that compassion, that empathy, that connection, or else they're never going to open up and they're never going to. We reflect back what we receive. So thank you for this. And Gaston, you're amazing.
You know, though, I have to say that was one moment when I did that. It was so spontaneous because I was so proud of him for saying it so clearly. Now, there's things in the assessments that you should never show great emotion, like, yeah, that's great, that you shouldn't do that. Oh, well, I broke the rule because I just felt so proud of him that I had to do that. So yeah, broken rule. Oh, well. Yeah.
We felt proud as well.
Really, that's great. Coaching police will be. Yeah, whatever.
Fabulous. What a great way to wrap up a great week. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Gaston. And thank you, everyone who has shown up, asked questions, made observations, offered resources. I mean, this is what this is about. It's and I couldn't ask for anyone that is more sincere about wanting to support coaching than Marcia. So thank you for wrapping the week up for us.
No, you're welcome.
Wonderful.
You're welcome. Yeah. All right.
And I put some things in the chat. If you would take a peek at them. Actually, I'll share screen real quick. I don't want to leave this up. So grab your phones if you want to do the QR code. You can do the QR code for the survey from Marcia Reynolds, or you can do the thing in the chat. There's a link in the chat for the survey. And also ICF South Florida. So we're participating in the Business Show Miami. So this is an opportunity for people to get together in person if you're in the area. I know we have literally coaches from 13 states and 23 countries. So not everybody is here. But if everybody will register, I think it's like we need 250 registrations and we get a free booth. So that would be awesome.
I'll register.
There you go.
Yeah.
And share the registration link, put it out on social media, copy and paste. It's in the chat. Put it out on social media and ask people to register, because the more registrations we get, the more it helps ICF South Florida. Again, this is getting coaching into the community because there's going to be opportunities for people to experience coaching there from coaches from ICF South Florida. It's so cool. So I'm going to stop my share about that. There we go. And again, thank you so much. We are 1 minute to close.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say
I'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marcia.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Mhm.